What is going on, guys? It's Sloppy Saturdays, back at you guys with another episode. And today we are continuing on the Nico Iamaleava saga. If you look back on our last episode, we covered everything. Him holding out in Tennessee, him moving on. Now he commits to UCLA. Wow, was this a colossal mistake from him and his team? And it really just seemed like what they thought was not what actually happened, as they wanted more money from Tennessee, as we covered. Tennessee said no, nobody's bigger than the team. They move on from him at Tennessee. Now he goes and he was looking for $4 million in NIL deals, and he comes back and he goes to UCLA, a worse program. It is his hometown, but a worse program, for less than the money he was getting at Tennessee, who's a powerhouse in a top conference in the SEC. He goes to UCLA now. That is bottom of the pack in the Big Ten. We're talking about UCLA, a program that hasn't had double-digit wins since 2014. It's been over 10 years since this program had double-digit wins. Now he goes to UCLA for less money. This makes absolutely no sense. Like I said, it really seems like Nico and his team really had him as higher of a value than everybody else did. And Nico just made a ton of mistakes for him. Whoever was in his ear, they do not realize that the money is in the NFL. The money's not in college football. The money's in the NFL. What college football is doing right now is great for a player, being able to make a little bit of money, not a little bit of money, a lot of money, but a little bit of money in NFL terms for their name, image, and likeness. They can make about $2-4 million, and it sets you up right now just in case anything happens to you. But the real money is in the NFL for an NFL quarterback. You see the money NFL quarterbacks are making. They're making $50-60 million a year. And Nico Iamaleava now put himself in a worse situation in UCLA. You're talking about a team in Tennessee that made the college football playoffs. That was at the top of the SEC. Now he goes to UCLA. That's a bottom feeder in the Big Ten, a Big Ten that's just completely rising, that you could argue was the best conference last year with contenders like Oregon, Ohio State, who won the national championship, Penn State, all those guys in the top of this conference. UCLA is not going to be able to compete. I mean, we look at this program 2-3 years ago was the last time they were relevant with Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Zach Charbonnet. Then they bring in another five-star in Dante Moore. It did not work out for him at all. Then they fire Chip Kelly. They go to Deshaun Foster. They have a losing record last year. I mean, UCLA is just not the place you want to go if you really want to make your mark and go into the NFL. Now, he goes from a place where he could have really developed in Tennessee under a great coach in Heupel with a great program to a program at UCLA that's a basketball school. Is a school that, again, like I said, that was basically the laughingstock of the Big Ten. So he basically messed up everything he could have messed up being greedy. We're talking about him making less money, going to a worse school, and ruining his image. If you think NFL teams aren't looking at a guy like Nico Iamaleava and saying, some teams might pass up on him, saying what is really important to him? Is it the NIL money? Is it just money in general and everything with it? Or does he really care about football? Because we saw him and his team get completely greedy, and it backfired. We saw him and his team leave a great situation thinking they could get more, and goes to a way worse one in UCLA. Now, how is this going to set up for him and the NFL? I personally don't know, because like I said, UCLA, for a guy that's a 5-star, 6'6" quarterback, like I said, is not the place you want to be. But if we're talking about it in UCLA terms, this was an absolute home run for UCLA. One, they pay him less than his market value. And two, for a program that has been dead like UCLA, like I have been mentioned, you get possibly one of the best quarterbacks in the country when it comes to in terms of ceiling. So I think it's a complete home run for UCLA. And I think it comes in the sense of, listen, not a lot of teams were interested in Nico Iamaleava, not only because of the money, but just because of how he went about things. And it was just going to be one team that was really going to pull the trigger and get him. And UCLA was the one team that did that. Even though there was a bad stench on Nico Iamaleava, UCLA was the one team that took the chance. And again, even if Nico Iamaleava plays at his floor, I think UCLA is just going to benefit tremendously. Not only with all the eyes that are going to be on him, that's guaranteed. Again, you got a guaranteed quarterback upgrade. And UCLA, again, $2 million is not a bad price, in my opinion, for Nico Iamaleava. I thought he was asking for was a little crazy, double that. But $2 million, again, for a program that's dead, I think it's completely worth it for them to take a chance. But again, Nico Iamaleava and his team really loses out in something in history in the beginning of the NIL era that's going to be looked on for years and years to come. They completely backfired and got too greedy, got less money, got a worse situation, and ruined their image. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturdays. A little bit of a quick one. There isn't too much to go over, as this was one of the worst mistakes, and everybody knows it. Sloppy Saturdays is